There, we're starting our second session for today from Open Ed. It's the first day of the conference. We're really happy to have some folks talking to us about their conference experience. So why don't we start with on-site introductions first? So let's get to know each other.
So my name is Tomo, and I'm a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon University in the States, and I'm also a member of Creative Commons Japan.
Excellent.
All right, so my name is Wally. I work in Toronto as an information system librarian. I'm also a PhD student in Nigeria, so while I do that through the distance learning program, I'm also a member of GOGN, which is the Global Year Graduate Network. So my first conference was in the UK, Bristol, where I met David Wiley, and he's been very, instrumental, in me coming to some of these conferences to meet, people who are in the open initiative and open activity. And it's also good it's a good conference to connect with people in the open world.
Yes. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Marjon. I'm from the Netherlands, and I work at Saxion University of Applied Sciences as an educational advisor, EdTech advisor. And from my employer, Saxion, I got a grant for a PhD study, and I'm doing a PhD on open education at Leiden University. And I'm a GoGN member as well, and I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone here and see what's going on in North America on open education, because it's a lot of things are going on here. So I really want to learn, like, okay, what can we take from the lessons learned from here back to the Netherlands, where we're just starting with OER.
Awesome. And Tanis. Oh, you'll have to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tanis Morgan. I'm here from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm the director of a teaching and learning center here at the Justice Institute of BC. And actually, one of my colleagues who's on a secondment right now to BC campus is attending. She's actually in several events, several presentations. I think one of them was happening earlier on the ZCred. The JI has a ZCred that is funded by BC campus, so we're being well represented by her, but feel free to reach out and get to know her. She's lovely. Her name is Krista Lambert, and she goes by Content Krista on Twitter.
Awesome. Thanks for the plug. And I'm Helen DeWard. I am a Faculty of Education instructor at Lakehead University here in Central Ontario, and an open ed advocate. I gently nudge and push my students into the open as an instructor with teacher candidates. So it's a real pleasure to meet GoGN folks. I've been following and listening in on the streams and the webinars with GoGN, and met Bea. I attended the OE Global in Delft last spring, so it was a chance to connect to some of the other members in the network. So it's nice to meet some people who are active in the GoGN network. Maybe talk a little bit about the presence of GoGN at the conference. Have you met and connected with other people that are there?
Yeah, we actually had a drink last night with, like an informal gathering, to reconnect with, colleagues. This is actually my first time because, of sitting together with the GOGN guys. At Delft, while I was also in Delft, I don't know nothing about GOGN when I was at the Delft conference. So until I, started talking to people like Jenny, and Jenny was like, you know what? Well, I'm gonna introduce you to our GOGN folks so that you can become a member, since you're doing your research in open educational resources. So after Delft, I sent email, and I became a member.
Yeah, I'm a member after the conference in Cape Town. I talked to Robert Schuwer there and explained that I was going to start with a PhD study. on Open, and then he introduced me to Beck, and well, that's when I met everyone. And last April in Delft, I went to the GoGN seminar before the conference, so I met so many new people, and some are really already finished with their PhD, and some are starting. And I just had lunch with some other GoGN member that I met in Delft. So it was really nice that you know who to reach out, but also when you have like a question, they say, oh, you should talk to that one or that one, because they have their own network again. So it's really a good way to get introduced to so many new people.
Yeah, I'm pretty new to this network. I became a member last year, and when I started my PhD, and I've been attending OpenNet so this is my 5th time coming to OpenNet, but I've never been to OE Global or OER conference. So I've seen a couple of people from GeoGN at OpenNet, but the one person that I remember is Igo. Let's go. So I think I met him 5 years ago when I was an instructional designer at Hokkaido University in Japan.
Okay.
And he introduced me to this network, and then I got to meet a lot of like different people in this network, and then it was very it was just nice to know like what kind of research questions they have, because it's very open education is like becoming very like complex, complicated like field, and then you can have a variety of research questions. So it's just nice that to know like what kind of research they're interested in, and then to explore what I could do in this field.
I'm guessing that the Open Ed conference is going to be a rich conversation space for you in terms of, gathering connections and kind of the director of research. Has something already pinged or caught your attention that that you're going to be taking away with you and digging in deeper?
Well, speaking of attending conferences for PhD students, I think while I gained my first benefit when I attended the OER 18 in Bristol, and I sat with Wiley. That was the first time I met him, and he was very instrumental in my chapter 2, because he was able to refer me to a website whereby I was just, I was able to get all the resources that I needed. So, I mean, it's good for, PhD student to attend some of these conferences. Apart from the fact that you can network, you also be updated to, what people are doing in their institutions.
And especially like there's like what you said, Tomo, there are so many areas within open education that it's too hard to know of everything. So like if you're studying focusing with your PhD on one small aspect, you can still get what's going on in the field by talking to others. It's really enrichment of the
and then people are generally nice, even nicer than like other conferences that I attended. And then it's nice because I'm an international student, so it's sometimes hard to get to know someone working deeply in this field in the US, and then meeting with people here will give me like more connections, and then that will sometimes turn into research. I think it's for me, it's very important to come here and then talk with people.
So are each of you presenting at the conference? And if you are, what topic is the presentation?
All right, so I am going to be presenting on Friday at 10:45. One of the variable I'm working on with my PhD is how can OER improve student academic performance. So so my presentation is based on a systematic review and meta-analysis of studies that have looked at the impact of OER on student academic performance. And how did they look at this? So they compared students using OER, each of the study that I looked at, compare students using OER versus students using traditional textbook. And most of the conclusion is that 50%, no, 57% of the studies concluded that students using OER performs better than students using traditional textbook. 30% of the study were inconclusive, and that doesn't mean it's not good for OER. It means that students perform the same as using traditional textbook. Why the remaining, I think maybe like just one study, one or two, I can't remember, just one or two study out of the 23 studies that I examined says students that use traditional textbook performs better than OER. So that's what I'm going to be talking on a Friday, and I hope people would come, because this is a good study that you can take away to the institutional management, that look, OER students are doing better. Why not adopt OER for all the courses? I mean, so that is, the takeaway from, hopefully, from my presentation. That is the takeaway I'm expecting people would,
Thank you.
And so I have multiple presentations. So one of the things that I'm interested in is sort of like why 2-year like results. So I'm interested in like why OER like group performs better than non-OER group, for example. And so one of the presentations that is on Friday is where I am looking at what kind of like course materials, like the activity types within OER course contribute to student learning. So we are we got data from Lumen Learning, and then we analyzed the data and then try to find which among like different learning activities like page view or quizzes or formative assessment, summative. And I'm interested in like looking at the performance on those different activities in the course, and then which one affect the student learning the most. So I'm sort of like interested in like the mechanism of this effect that we have been observing. And then I have also a presentation. It's a poster presentation today. It's about. So I'm also interested in like how teachers can customize the content, because it's sort of like the core part of 5-hour activities. So how can teachers customize OER so that it can benefit student learning? And then one strategy that we are interested in is called contextualized instruction, where teachers customize the content so that the context of the like learning activities or learning materials can match students like familiar context. And then so the poster is they're proposing this strategy, and then we're trying to explain the experiment that we are planning to do. And then there is one more. So this is I'm doing this as a like co-presenter. So one of my colleagues at Carnegie Mellon, he developed the software that teachers can use to create the learning activities in computer science field in an easy way. And then we are sort of like demoing the software. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm not presenting, so I'm just learning and observing, and
You're quite lucky, I think. We have a new virtual participant. Why don't you introduce yourself, and we can get to know where you are.
That's her network.
Sorry, you'll have to unmute your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me? All right. My name is Sadiq. I'm with the Wikimedia Ghana user group, and I also volunteer for the CC chapter Ghana here. And I was part of the Creative Commons, the attendees for the 2018 Creative Commons Global Summit in Toronto. And I'm so much passionate about open education. And unfortunately, I'm still at work, so I joined so late, and I hope I'm not late to the party. And I'm excited to see all these amazing people, and I'm looking forward to getting more insight and learning from what will be uncovered at the summit. I was supposed to actually come or attend the summit, but unfortunately, I didn't get enough funding. Yeah.
We're glad that you're virtually connecting with us. There's lots of other sessions with virtually connecting coming up tomorrow and Friday, so don't hesitate to sign up for all of them if you are interested, Sadiq. Okay, back to the conference. Keynote speakers, any insights that you gained from the two keynote speakers that we've heard about? They talked about boundaries and borders and drawing the line. Did any of that resonate with any of you?
Yeah, I really like that the first keynote speaker had like a more K-12 background. So he actually asked like, raise your hand if you work into higher education and raise your hand if you work in K-12. And the group of K-12 people were like maybe like 2% of all the people presented at a conference. So it was really nice like to see that they had a keynote from K-12 perspective and to be included at a conference. And the keynote from what was the name again? Mitchell.
Jess Mitchell.
Yeah, it was really well. It is
from.
Helen, we keep losing you. I don't know if it's our network.
It could be mine, but keep talking through, and I think we'll weather the bandwidth issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I really like that it gave really food for thought about equity and diversity and drawing new lines from what is normal and where do you want to go with education in the future. And it gave a real good overview for me as I'm from the Netherlands, like what is actually status quo here in North America, because the situation here is different than what I'm used to back home. So it really places everything in perspective, so that it really helps to know okay, some presentations during the conference, the background story of it.
For me, both keynotes were very good and amazing. Well, I'm not into the K-12, but I was able to, learn some few things. With regards to the second keynote speaker, well, I think, some of his, some of presentation. I'm sorry, was very resonating in the sense that she talked about openness, how we should stand up for ourselves, and how we should be, how we should always be. What word am I looking for? It was an amazing presentation. Well, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for me, so they are both very interesting and amazing and inspiring, especially the second keynote by Jess about this, inclusiveness. It has been like so this like pushback on for about this inclusive nature of this open has been said by many people. I've noticed that many people are saying about this issue, and then so as a international students, as a person from Japan, so I've noticed that there are, for example, few Asian people in this conference, and then so I feel that we need the Asian voices, the Asian voices need to be heard more in this conference. But at the same time, I'm also acknowledging that like just said that so education is very contextual activity. So it's kind of hard to decide what you should do. I mean, so as a person coming from Japan, so what's happening here in the States is totally different from what's happening in Japan, and I think also from other countries. And then there are a lot of things that we can learn from this conference, and then bring back to Japanese context. But there are many different things, and then the question that I've been asking myself is that should I talk more about the things happening in Japan, or should I be more like an American person, and then focusing more on this American context or North American context? So I've been struggling to find where I should go. Studying as a PhD student in the States, it sort of means that I have sort of to some extent I have to contribute to the American education system, but also I have a passion for Japanese education issues. So it's kind of just hard for me to find the appropriate balance.